Hey guys, here's a quick video to show you how to use the brand new 3D printed holder for the GC1 1 and GC1 2. So the first holder is the GC1 1 microswitch holder. So to use the microswitch holder, you will need the holder, of course, and you will need the microswitch. I will give you the reference in the manual. And you will need two M316 screws that you can screw to attach the microswitch holder. And of course, to connect the microswitch to the PCB, you will need some wires. The first thing you want to do is to solder the wires here. So you will need to connect the wires in the command here and in the normally open here, because if you put in the normally closed pin, the switch will be always active when you're not using it. But we don't want that. We want the switch to be active when you're pushing it. So here and here. So once you put the wire on it, you have to insert it in the holder like this, and then screws here to attach it. You don't need to screw really hard, just screw enough so that it's holding well, because if you screw really hard, you might break the holder, but you still have to screw strong enough so that it's holding well. It's a holder I've been using for years now, so it's been tested really well and it's never broke so far. So yeah, once it's screwed well, you should see it's really strong, really staying well here. And you take the shell, gun shell, and you can see here there is a pin right here, and there is a small plastic part here. You will have to adjust the part so that it slides here. Just be careful of this part here too, sliding heel. Normally this part is pushing the part to slide perfectly inside the shell. And you push it all the way down. It should go smoothly. And now it's done. It's attached. You will just have to put the trigger back here with the spring. I mean, even without the spring it should work, but it's better with the spring. And it should activate like this. As you can see, it's very nice click. So then you can put the spring back, and when you put the trigger, you will see here, you will think this one is on the way, but actually the holder is made in a way that you can pull the spring like this, pull the trigger, and then like this, it goes right in. And the trigger here is touching the switch, but it's not a problem because it's right at the perfect side. And when you push, very satisfying click. We are working on the GC1 1. Let's install the solenoid. So for the solenoid, you will of course need the holder, this time too. And you will need this solenoid. It's a JF0826, and you will need the model that doesn't have a back plunger, because like most of the model here have a plunger that goes on the back here. So you want the model that doesn't have it. Problem is that it's kind of hard to source sometimes. So some of the models that have a B, like GF0826B, some of the B model, you can actually unscrew the back of the plunger and unscrew this part here to have the same result. But it can be tricky to do, and not all model will work. So if you really can't get this model, you might have some luck with the B model and removing the plunger. It's really important to remove the plunger, because you will see that if it has a back plunger, it will not fit at all. So I had to search for a while which orientation and which solenoid could fit. And that's pretty much the biggest one I managed to fit, but I had to tweak a little bit to make it fit in the shell without modifying it. And you will see if there is no plunger, it's really nice. It really fits well, and it feels really nice once it's installed. So the first thing you want to do for this solenoid is to trim the wire here to connect it to the PCB. Doesn't matter if you have my DIY PCB or if you have your own for micro board directly and your own circuit. You still have to trim it to avoid having the wire everywhere, and you know, the wire could like get stuck on the solenoid and cause issue. So you want to trim it, but not too short. If it's trimmed too long, you can still fix it, But if it's trimmed too short, you cannot fix it anymore. So first, trim the wire so that it's connected correctly to the PCB. And then take the holder here, and you will see it has two holes, one here, and there is two pins here in the shell. So you want to align them both like this. Something that is optional but highly recommended is a temperature sensor. It's a TMP36. And so this one, if you want to install it, you should solder the wire first here. And then once the wire are soldered, you should bend that like this, put it like this, and then you insert in this part here. Put it back. And once this one is inserted, it should hold a little bit. So once you put the holder, it's really simple. You just slide the solenoid in like this. And that's all. As you can see, the temperature sensor is moving a little bit, but it's normal. It's because the solenoid here, the coil and wire here have different size depending on the model. It's a bit random, so I let a little bit of gap here so that every solenoid can fit. And once you did that, you have to pass the solenoid wire down here. Just have to put it like this. If you want to pass the D-pad wire, you can pass it under it or over it. Doesn't really matter as long as it's here. You should not put wire over this plastic part, because when you put the upper shell, it might press against this wire, so it's not good. So yeah, once you put that, you can solder on the PCB if it's not already done. Once everything is installed, you can just close the shell here and see, close perfectly. Okay, so next, let's do the same on the GC1 2. So here you can see it's same, it should slide here really easily. And as the GC1 1, you might want to use a temp sensor. And it's the same installation. You just slide it in, put it here, and it will be held by the solenoid once the solenoid is in place. For this part, I wanted to show you the model you have to buy is JF0530 without the B. Because if you buy the B like this, you might be able to remove the back plunger here, and then you can maybe you might be able to unscrew this part, but it's really hard to do. Sometimes it goes easily, but most of the time it's really stuck really strong, so it's really hard to do. So even though the 0530 like without B is harder to source, it might be better. So for the holder, once you put the temp sensor, you have to put the solenoid like this. Just be careful that every angle, every corner of the solenoid are aligned. If it's like this, for instance, it's not good. So really align with the four corners and insert like this. The temp sensor should move a little bit like this. And then you push this like this. Then here, plunger should be stopped by the shell. If it's not low enough, it will go away like this, so it's not good. So you really have to put it inside. And then you can wire the solenoid if it's not already done. When you put back the upper shell, you have to be careful that the plunger is not going in the way here. Then here, and it should close perfectly and it will be held perfectly. Also, last point, when you put solenoid plunger here, if you want to be sure it's not getting stuck on the way, you might want to put the little gap here upper. Usually, even if it's not upper, it should work anyway. It should not get stuck, but just to be sure, put it on the upper part so it slides well. That's all for today. You have two guns with solenoid equipped.